Hello, and welcome to Introduction to Anti-Oppression Terminology. This is brought to you by the Rainbow Diversity Institute, a company that does education on equity, diversity, and inclusion topics like this and many others. So you can learn more about us at rainbowdiversityinstitute.ca. Today, this video is going to provide you with an overview or an introduction to the concept of intersectionality, how it's connected to concepts around oppression, and how it can be helpful for examining experiences of oppression. So the concept of intersectionality is actually a political framework and a term that was developed and coined by Black legal scholar Kimberly Crenshaw. So it refers to the interconnected nature of oppressions and helps us to examine the ways in which various forms of oppression are interlocked or are working in tandem with each other to reinforce subjugation, marginalization, oppression, whichever word you want to use here, of our most oppressed groups, and helps to reinforce power for our most privileged groups. So what that means is when we have different aspects of identity that are overlapping, this might allow us to have more privilege or might create more further experiences of oppression, as well as actually examining the experiences of oppression might not be possible without looking at our multiple forms of identity or the multiple systems that are at play. So Crenshaw developed this concept to help us in capturing and accurately examining the experiences of people who are at the intersections of multiple oppressions. And in particular, she was interested in examining the experiences of Black women and helping to create a concept that would actually allow us to examine accurately the experiences of Black women who are experiencing both sexism and racism, in particular anti-Black racism, but also because the combination of those two systems of oppression create a unique form of oppression that only Black women experience, which is called misogynoir. So the concept of intersectionality was really key for us being able to see how race and gender intersect in the case of Black women to kind of overlap these systems of oppression, but also in a way that we can't really examine their experiences without examining the intersections. So, for example, when Kimberly Crenshaw was developing this concept, because she's a legal scholar, she was actually examining how the legal system didn't allow you to come forward for a case of discrimination on the basis of multiple identities. So when Black women would come forward, they had to choose, were they coming forward on the basis of sexism or on racism? And this really disallowed them to truly examine and advocate for the experiences that they were having, which were very much a product of both sexism and racism occurring simultaneously and working with each other. So this concept of intersectionality can help us to examine experiences like those. So we've put together a little image to help highlight some of the identities or some of the systems of oppression that you might see intersecting commonly. This is not meant to be an exhaustive or exclusive list of identities, but provides some examples. So we have here class, sexuality, race, disability, age, gender, body size, religion. You could also add nationality, citizenship, education level. These are all different aspects of social identity that impact our experiences and that combined create unique experiences for us depending on the combination of our privileges and oppressions. So the concept of intersectionality can help us to understand also how we can experience both forms of marginalization and also forms of privilege or social power, because it helps us to move away from this kind of single identity framework and understanding oppression through a single identity framework, and helps us to examine the complex nature of oppression. So if we take the example of someone who is marginalized on the basis of their sexuality, so they are LGBTQ+, they might not be marginalized on the basis of their race. So for example, if this person is white, then their experiences of homophobia are actually going to be impacted by the racial privilege that they hold. And it would be important for us to examine the homophobia that's occurring in this situation through the lens of race as well, because we know that, for example, people of color who are also LGBTQ+ experience mass amounts of violence that is disproportionate to white LGBTQ+ folks. And so the concept of intersectionality can help us to understand why is that happening and how is that possible and what's going on. So I want to thank you for joining me today for this video, this introduction to intersectionality, and thank you for watching. You can find more videos like this and more anti-oppression resources and education at rainbowdiversityinstitute.ca.